This video is brought to you by eBay Australia. They've teamed up with CNET to show you how to reset your old iPhone before reselling it on eBay. Check it out by following the on-screen annotation or the link in the description below. Adopted from the top and bottom of their lineup, Nokia has crafted the Lumia 625 as the mid-range competitor. Boasted to boost display size on a budget, filling a potential profitable niche, but lacking a few critical specs that left me wanting. If you enjoy the work I do, like it, share it, subscribe to it, and keep following the latest tech that compels me. Simply put, the Lumia 625 is simply crafted. Not to say craftsmanship took a hit here, but the phone is sturdy, weighted well at 159 grams, and with clean contours, refined lips, and polished with high-end sophistication. It's the shape, we've seen it, adored it, bored with it, but it still works. At the end of the day, the rounding about the soft touch shell casing conforms, and the sharp lipping into the deep black bezel allows an easy grip. If any gripe can be found, it's that the casing choice offers little resistance to a cold, dry hand and can easily slide out. Working around the rear surface and edges, it feels brilliantly barren, minimalistic with only a small slit for the loudspeaker and dot for the rear-facing camera. That's because the casing needs to easily be removed and can be exchanged in a host of vibrant colours. The reddish orange I have on here came with an additional black variant. They are swapped around easily, are very stiff and protective, have a high impact visually, and master micro SD slot stacked under the micro SIM card tray. The battery is visible, but not simply removable, unfortunately. The thing with Nokia devices and the Windows Phone platform is that they embrace and endorse high contrast in design. The casing selections offered by Nokia support this and offer great variety for consumers. Unfortunately, the other area of high contrast is between the large panel and the deep black bezel. The display distinctly lacks Nokia's clear black technology, and while a pane of Gorilla Glass 2 protects the panel, it isn't the best against smudges and lacks the silkiness of other glass. The capacitive buttons do not light up, very sucky indeed, but the position of the physical buttons, including the dedicated shutter button, were situated well. It's safe to say $300 is a palatable price tag, and 4G LTE sweetens the deal. The quality of calls was on par with the Lumia 925, as both achieved very good signal strength, extremely fast download speeds, and zero Wi-Fi issues. But I did fear the performance of the 625 with a mere half a gig of RAM. But the Qualcomm Snapdragon dual-core 1.2 GHz Crate CPU managed to keep punching out a consistent performance. It didn't lag far behind what the 925 achieved, and the OS performance was never its failing point. At times, loading of apps suffered if they weren't currently active within the multitasking. In-app usage at times slower than anticipated from other flagship devices, and the more intensive games were held back ever so slightly, even with the Adreno 305 GPU. But you do get Bluetooth 4.0 supporting Bluetooth Low Energy, a Class B GPRS that delivered, a measly 8GB of internal storage, but it is supported by up to 64GB of expandable memory and a 2000 mAh battery. A lot needs to be said about battery life. While at work I can't use my phone much, but it is constantly receiving emails, notifications and messages. On my breaks, driving at home, it is constantly under the pump, browsing and interacting with lots of media. It's been 9 hours since my last full charge, and I have 85% left. And I have been home for hours. Continuous HD video playback achieves roughly 8.5 hours. The biggest compromise so far comes in the display, but it is bittersweet. You get the biggest display Nokia has ever put out, a 4.7-inch IPS LCD, exhaustively stretching out 480 by 800 pixels to a point that detracts completely from the wonderful so far experience. Visible pixels are the first point. Lacking sharpness, poor viewing angles, and poor daylight performance are major sticking points with me. The super sensitive touch is an adequate inclusion, but without clear black, the panel's kind of washed out, and thankfully I can and did amend the colour palette to something more vibrant. An edge light bleeding from the base doesn't say much for quality, but do I care about such a big display with such a little cost? Of course I do, it's one hell of a market to be covering, and I'm still oddly kind of sold on it. The use I got from the 65 was endless. It's a Windows Phone 8 Amber device made by Nokia. You get an OS that takes some getting used to. It lacks brilliant app support, but it is growing. Web apps can be slung onto the homepage, and at the end, it feels less isolated from the supported Android and iOS worlds. Once accustomed to the text-based interface, things are intertwined luminously. Customization is limited to color themes and expanded by live tiles. Notifications are there embedded in your personal tile, but not glaringly in your face where they should be. Nokia is the best supporting OEM for the platform, so you get fantastic inclusions made in-house. Their Drive GPS mapping service is comparable to the best around, but the 65 lacks Drive Plus. Smart Cam is there, but not the new premium suite to be seen in the flagship devices. And Glance is lacking, which will display time and notification information on a lock screen, because the 65 is utilizing LCD tech, not AMOLED. The Windows keyboard could do with a tweak as well. I found the spacebar to be squished too much in the middle, and I often would find myself hitting the comma button. In landscape, they also don't maximize the real estate, leaving the keyboard bordered either side. Big display, big expandable storage, and excellent streaming over Wi-Fi or LTE, endless hours of fun. The loudspeaker does enough without providing a riveting depth of sound. The included headphones are cheap and perform as such, but boosted by Dolby Music sound enhancement. Unfortunately, the cameras are a mixed bag. I've got to assume the crowd this phone will attract will likely be younger, they will be loving the large display and the media experience, and be fiends of social media. Proficient performance of the 5-megapixel autofocus LED flash camera is absent. The 65 hasn't been gifted with the mastered Carl Zeiss glass, and that is noticeable. Daylight performance gave through reasonable quality, though shadow areas never felt investigated by this sensor, and low light conditions ladden the subject in grain. Night performance in general was bad. The flash helps. The UI is solid, but not the latest and greatest Pro version, and likely won't be. The front-facing camera, being VGA, takes grainy and at times blurry shots and videos, something to consider if you regularly indulge with vanity. One must consider the price point here. For cost, the Lumia 65 ticks many key boxes that most mid-range phones can't. The performance of the OS, flagship size display, excellent build quality are the winners. Coupled with quality internals like LTE, it's a very easy smartphone to put ahead of so many Android phones in this bracket. The camera performance, while lacking, is kind of what's expected for $300. The stretched out pixels are a big detractor, but one can come to terms with, because I wouldn't part with even a portion of that display size. The excellent battery life and so many aspects borrowed from Nokia's flagship devices definitely give the Lumia 625 a look by following the link below to pick one up from mobicity.com. I'm Kurt, and this is KABOOtech. Thanks for watching.